it's time that you knew there's someone there who's searching for you, and it's time that you believe he's gonna find you.
Why, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mark David Stallard. This is Ryan Janz. We are self-isolating, I think, or social isolating today. So I guess we always do these weekday ones at our separate locales anyway. So hope everyone's doing well. How you doing, Ryan?
And healthy. Hope you're doing all well and healthy. I'm doing quite good, despite having a hospital on my client roster. So that's also why I don't look exactly like my my picture that you've caricature that you've done so well.
Indeed.
I had to shave because I needed personal protective equipment. I needed to wear a respirator, so I can't have a beard, and the beard doesn't count. I made that joke in front of an occupational health and safety person, and they were not amused.
Yes, indeed. So you're at least for a little while, you're supporting the occasional baby face, as you often do. But I'm sure you'll catch up soon.
Oh, it won't take long. Probably a couple of weeks, and it'll be back. And now that we've officially pulled out for legitimate safety reasons, which neither the hospital or my employer actually had problems with, will be more liberty to have facial hair. So yeah, that's fine.
For sure. I have a little bit because I'm lazy. Because I didn't want to show. Anyhow, I think I was at the St. Boniface Hospital today to pick up something just for a family member, and it looks like there were massive security on the front door. They wouldn't even let me in, so I had to actually phone up and get them to bring down. It was just a charger that was left behind, but that was kind of an interesting experience.
Yeah, that was actually that was probably the last nail in the coffin for us. We kind of approached the hospital and said, listen, if you're going to go to that extreme security and lockdown, we're just going to get in your way. And we could easily defer the work that we're doing to next month or even next quarter. And I don't think anybody's really going to be upset. I don't think the AHJ is going to be mad that you decided not to get your fire alarm tested while there was a pandemic outbreak. That I think they'll be a little forgiving for that. Just me. I don't know. Maybe someone wants to be a stickler.
Yeah, maybe. So, well, apparently, we're talking.
And don't worry, if they are, we will talk about that.
Indeed. So, yeah, it was seeming that in the U.S. They're going to go ahead. The Democrats. I don't know if you'd heard this, but they went ahead with the Tuesday voting for the primary, and they were encouraging people to go out and vote. And to do so, they had actually closed down some polling stations. They had half the polling stations they originally planned, and which is kind of crazy because there will be more people going to fewer polling stations, making them closer, making them worse. Yeah, it seems like they just want to get these people sick. And when I heard that, when I said to my wife that I thought that how are the Democrats better than Trump? Because this is really they're making it more likely for people to get sick, and if someone does die, then surely would they not be guilty of manslaughter at that point? They're setting it up where it's worse, where they're more likely to get it, rather than the mail-in ballots or whatever.
Yeah, or even switching to secure online ballots, because that is also an option. Yeah, I really don't know what to say. A lot of people would say, "Oh, well, we got to get Biden or Bernie Sanders in," and the truth is that when you measure policies that either Biden or Sanders are going to put in, a lot of them are actually better and could move the United States into a place that actually is sort of equal to what the world stage is. But the problem is that both Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden are career politicians. And career politicians are the ones that you have to watch like a hawk. And you think about all the terrible things. It's easy. We can pick on Trump administration, like I pick on the Nixon administration or the Johnson administration, all these different places that are just like, oh, that's so blatantly bad. But you can easily go through the Democrats and pick out and say, well, that wasn't good, and that wasn't good, and that wasn't good. It's kind of, and I think they're the worst at promising and not delivering. They're worse than, say, a guy like Trump, where he says, hey, I'm going to go do this, and it's outlandish and stupid, and he goes and does it, right? We're going to build a wall, and well, it's like a piece of tin held up by a 2x4, but can't argue with the fact that he said, hey, I'm going to build a wall, and he built it. How effective it's going to be, I don't know, but probably next to zero. It's probably better to not even have the wall.
Yeah, well, a wall is only good if you've got an army defending it. It's as good as the army.
Indeed.
They're only really effective with lethal force. Anyhow, topic for another time. We hadn't intended to talk about it.
That we can easily write down. So one thing that I want to, before, obviously coronavirus is not just a local topic here, worldwide problem right now. There's a lot of misinformation that goes out on the web. I'm saying this because last night I encountered a post that if you looked at it, probably at a casual glance, you're like, oh, well, that looks really like informed and it looks like an interesting opinion. But as soon as you kind of scrape the paint off it, it looks really nice and scientific. And basically what it was saying is it was charting out all the pandemics throughout history and showing how many people they killed. And so they're trying to compare the COVID-19 outbreak now to, say, the Black Death in Europe in the 12th century. Yeah, that's what I kind of chuckled to myself. Yeah. And so I generally try not to post a comment, but it's a site that I followed for a number of years. Yeah. So I was like, guys, you dropped the ball on this one. Yeah. You can't make that kind of comparison because the 12th century Europe didn't have the same kind of technology. They didn't have the same sanitation practices. They didn't have the same kind of social practices and etiquette and hygiene practices. And the Black Death is a completely different type of virus than COVID-19. They're not even the same type of family. I mean, you could argue that influenza and COVID-19 are very related because they are. They share some of the symptoms. But like when the Black Death was going on, you walked outside, you caught it, right? Well, we're almost at the point now where if you walk outside and being in contact with somebody who's been in contact with somebody who has it, you could get it. Now, you're going to quarantine at home. You're going to be miserable for 2 weeks, but because you're getting over a really intense cold, and if you have a compromised immune system, you are at high risk. Or if you're a senior or anybody who has compromised immune system due to any kind of complications, you're in trouble. But the problem is that the reason they call it a pandemic is it just spreads so fast, and it lives on surfaces for like 9 or 10 days, like 2 weeks. So if you sneezed on your counter at the beginning of your self-isolation and didn't treat that counter and wipe it down, and then you touched it on day 14 of your isolation, there's a good chance you just reinfected yourself.
Yeah. Well, I just actually got some a little bit of the details. There's no way of knowing just how long the virus will stay on the surface. But they estimate
about 9 to 10 days.
Oh, I was hearing 4 hours to 24 hours.
Yeah.
So, but they don't really know because the data's just not there yet.
Right. They estimated that it could, based on its profile and sort of his family, some of the places that I've worked at are working on the assumption that it survives outside the body for much longer than 4 to 24 hours. They're assuming that it's like a 2-day or a 10-day run. Yeah. So they're just not taking any precautions, or they're taking all the precautions, they're not taking any risk. So this was kind of a meandering point. The point I'm saying is we just want to make sure that we want to fact check and check our sources and see what they're actually saying. And this actually also applies to a lot of the normal topics that we do. We talk about lots of stuff, and we're always upfront about our resources, and we try and check our resources. And if the resource doesn't measure up, we don't use it. So check your sources, fact check as best you can. And the second thing is pick your battles. We do a podcast, and so we know we're going to eventually say something that's going to make someone mad, and they're going to yell at us in the comments or send us a nasty email or something, whatever, right? That's our choice about doing that. But if there's anything that could stress you out more, is trying to argue with someone who's just arguing for the sake of argument. So you know what? I made that comment on the site. I got like 20 responses. 3 of them were people who were like solidly convinced that it was like blown out of proportion and that nobody was like, it was all just fake. I was like, okay, like 50,000 people are dead. Go tell it to their families, please. But people like that just can't be convinced. So you just try to explain nicely, and then after that, I just don't even bother.
Right.
If you're just going to argue with me for the sake of argument, well, forget it.
Okay, just want to interrupt you there. Quick call out. Winnipeg Trini Man on Facebook. I know who that is, but don't know if I should say his name because he would have used his real name. And Catherine McGoy.
Welcome, Trinity Man.
Yeah, Trini.
Trini.
I'm from Trinidad. Yeah. Yeah, I know what that is. I'll tell you offline. But
no problem.
He can let us know in the comments there if he's okay with me saying his first name. But and Catherine McGoy in the UK, she's joined us. And anyway, just want to say that.
What's she doing in the UK? Why is she all the way over in the UK?
Because that's where she lives.
Yes. I didn't even know she moved over there.
No. We wrongly put her in Ireland, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we're off topic now. Anyway,
and let the nasty comments come in.
Yes. Catherine.
Hi,
Catherine. She'll be nice to us.
Or Catherine. Hi, Catherine. I can't see you, but you can probably see me. It's nice to see you, or nice for you to see.
Yep,
me.
he's given us permission. That's Shalim on YouTube.
All right.
Here we go.
Excellent.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. So she just put a post there. She lives in Fleetwood, England, but she's originally from Omagh, Northern Ireland. So UK to UK, right? At least for a little while until I guess there's a movement for the Northern Islands to join the Republic, but I don't know how if that's ever going to happen. But we never know.
Well, we can do a whole show on two guys fixing
I'm doing a lot
politics.
of research on that one before I touch that one publicly, I think.
Let's be careful.
Yeah.
Let's be careful with that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that conflict got really escalated really fast, and they have guns.
Yeah, we got okay, so just stick with the virus just for a sec, just a little bit longer. There's some of the solutions. I mean, I think the governments of Canada and the province the province of Manitoba are acting reasonably well. No real complaints. I think that we haven't really experienced this before. I think they seem to be in the right direction. The only problem is that the Conservatives, Conservatives with the small C as well as the big C, the neoliberals that want to cut services to save costs and all that stuff, particularly, as I say, in Manitoba, where they've actually killed our, that's probably not a good choice of word there, but the emergency rooms went down from 5 to 2, I think it is. Anyway, significant, regardless of what the numbers are, massive, completely cut the emergency rooms. They've cut staff, they cut senior staff. There's not enough funding for things like physiotherapy have been cut, help for elderly people have been cut down. It really is kind of a nasty situation that, to start with, only now we're going to be seeing it. It's even worse now that we are having to have armed guards at hospitals just to try and manage that. But even though they've given themselves that nasty, they've laid out the field in that way, they're handling it well with what they've given themselves, I should say. So I don't want to harper on the government too long. Now, one point I did want to say is that there is talk about UBI being handed out in the US, and so it's like a handout for working people, and I've got lots of thoughts on that. I think that's a show all by itself. We can kind of talk about that.
We could probably just glaze over that real quick.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, as a short-term solution, it's definitely help. Any money that you want to send my way, it will help.
Oh, for sure. And actually, it's interesting because this actually feeds in. So I've mentioned numerous times that I work for a large international company that does fire alarm sales and service.
It's not Carry On, is it? It's on your shut there. It's a Carry On.
Oh no! That's just my
Oh.
No, it's my favorite
cardboard. Okay, I'm trying to see that.
that I bought from
Looking pretty small
Costco.
on
That has nothing to do
video.
with my. No, I have to. I'm also under a media clause. I have to be careful what I say about my company.
Yeah.
But I will, and I've openly criticized this. I've mentioned this to my manager and ops manager and every manager that I can fool. Listen to me. The company that I work for basically said to us, "We're not there." There was a threat. They were sort of not a threat, but they were sort of toying with the idea of shutting down operations for about 2 weeks, which is okay. 2 weeks lost revenue. I can understand that could be painful, but that also means that nobody's going to be infected on because they said, "Hey, go to this building," and now I can't get infected if that place is a zone. Then about a day later, they came out with the official, and they're like, "No, we're going to continue operations. We're going to send the office staff home half. We're going to divide into 2 teams. Half of them will stay at the office. Half of them will stay at work from home, and then they'll switch, and that will reduce their chance of getting infection, which is kind of silly. And then for field personnel, it's business as usual." And it wasn't until a week later, like today, that they released a list of places that we're definitely not supposed to go. It's like I've been working in one of those places for a week already, so it boggled my mind. And then that part was already frustrating, but then the part that was even more frustrating was we're not going to offer you any kind of sick leave. Anytime you take off, you have to apply for EI or you have to use up your vacation time. And that's where the outrage came. And it's like, really? You guys are going to keep us in the field, keep us working because you're afraid to lose money, potential income loss because of this, and you don't even have the common decency to say, "Hey, we're ordering you to a place where we think that you could get sick, and if you get sick, it's your fault." Like, so then I just exercise my right to refuse unsafe work and just leave the job site, and then we can have a big meeting about it, and you can ask me why. So I really don't understand why they just wouldn't pull the plug, because that's all we're going to do anyways.
Yeah,
just
the
right to work, and then it's going to cost you anyways, because now I'm at work, billing you for my time, right? For my hourly wages, I'm basically billing them for my time. So you're going to have my salary plus whatever expense it is to run my van to go from site A to site B, just to have me say, "No, I'm rejecting it because of legitimate safety concerns."
Yeah.
Which is a big cost anyways. You might as well just paid me to stay at home.
Yeah. So Schleem has an update. He says in the next few days, Italy will likely overtake China as number 1 in the world for coronavirus deaths. Now it's worth it to just to point out that it's particularly bad in Italy, and is that what we're not hearing is China built, I think, hospitals. They built like a dozen hospitals in like 2 or 3 days. Or 5 days. They responded absolutely phenomenal. Everything was piled in, which is why it hasn't gone as bad as it could have been in China. Mm-hmm. But Italy, there apparently we're hearing, yes, there are high death rates there. Excuse me. But we ought to take into account as well that there are a lot of people. That it's an older population, so they're proportionally more older people there than in other countries. They have a larger amount of people that smoke and have potential lung issues, and their overall lifestyle is not that great. So they're getting hit hard.
And there's it was the north part of northern Italy has a lot of air pollution. There was like a couple of cities that are just like perfect. They're kind of like Los Angeles, where they're like in valleys, and so like the smog is just there, and that just tears through. Right. So you might as well just said, "Okay, kill me." Yeah. Kill me, virus. So.
Yeah. So anyway, I started talking about there's some tax cuts and some Justin Trudeau's going to be handing out some tax cuts, child benefits. They're going to be raising some of the child tax benefits and that kind of thing. All of course helps. I mean, every little bit does help. But the one
Yep.
that really kills me is I just saw a headline. I don't know any details on this. I just saw a headline before we went live. Boeing wants a bailout of $60 billion US. They're like, these people, don't forget, they released, was it the 737 MAX?
Yeah,
Two of them crashed, killing over 700 people.
Problem.
Why are they still in business? And they want people to, for the people, this is going to be taxes, to bail them out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, and then one has to also ask, Boeing is also like, they're trans-Pacific, they're transatlantic, they're worldwide, their planes can fly around the world. Do they not bear some responsibility for bringing viruses abroad, right?
Yep.
They're just going to say that, hey, we're just the vessel. It's like, well, but did you sanitize the vessel? Did you provide? Did you make it mandatory that before anyone gets on the plane, the flight attendant is watching them sanitize their hands with hand sanitizer, doing proper, like all the stuff that you're supposed to do? Did you do you have like an antibacterial spray that you spray down the seats? Did you isolate? Do you have a section of the plane that you can just isolate sick people with? Right, like
which isn't going to help much, as the air is generally kind of recycled, right? As it pumps around.
Yeah, exactly. So, are you installing things like HEPA filters in your air? Like,
and really, I mean, if you're in a plane and you've literally got 2 centimeters, if you're lucky, of gap between your knees and the seat in front, you're 6 feet away from about 9 other people, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Right, within that 6 feet radius, because you're supposed to be 6 feet away. So yeah, plane travel, bad idea. I mean, travel only if you have to, right? So Shaleem points out that things got out of control in Italy, partly because they didn't do the social distancing thing early enough, which is interesting. I hadn't heard that, but thanks for that, Shaleem. But that does make a lot of sense as well. And Catherine says all UK and Northern Ireland pubs, hotels have been closed due to the virus. And that obviously affects everybody in the music business, which is keen for us and our a good bit of information for us and our other shows, of course. Yeah, so events have been cancelled. So,
yeah, and this actually is gonna dovetail nicely into what. So, our first sort of topic, we've obviously discussed the virus.
Okay, here we go. I just want to jump in. Just want to jump in for some clarification. Shaleem blaming Boeing is misplaced for the spread of the virus. It would be the airlines. We were right. You're right to point us out on that, Shaleem. We did mix up the airlines with the airplane manufacturers.
Well, fair enough.
But Ryan's points still stand for the airlines.
Yeah, I still feel like there's more that a manufacturer of intercontinental travel could do. But Shaleem, that's a discussion that we'll go for. Well, we can't go for a beer.
We'll go for a while.
Over a pint, but we can't.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be long before all of our pubs and restaurants are closed. Bar Italia, I noticed, was closed, and a whole lot of restaurants, cafes are closed.
We're in the same boat that Catherine over in Ireland is saying.
England.
We're closing down everything.
She's in England.
England, sorry. Whatever. Catherine, I'm gonna get it right one day.
Whatever.
Sorry. Thanks for being a good fan. But not with my garbage. But yeah, we're
we'll edit that out in post.
No, we'll leave it in. We need to break up this serious talk here. No, we're in the same boat, and yeah, a lot of musician friends have done Facebook concerts or online concerts, which is fine. That's one way to do it. Viruses not only just bring out viruses doesn't not only just economic, like from the business perspective, like things shutting down, but it really just does expose a lot more about policies that you wouldn't really think. But we talked about this on back in our minimum wage episode. We kind of touched on this, or something similar to this, where if you work a job that's like $20 an hour, but it's only like 20 hours a week, you're technically considered to be part time, and they don't have to pay you all your things like EI benefits, and you're considered casual. They don't have to pay you severance. There's all these little loopholes that they can do. So yes, we'll pay you $20 an hour. We're only going to make you work 20 hours a week, which is really just the equivalent of a minimum wage job, anyways, right? And then this happens, and people are hurting for money and potentially sick and just stressed out over everything else. And what was it? True North decided that they this has been changed, by the way. So don't throw your throw stuff at your TV screen or computer screen or however you're watching this. They were not going to pay their workers, all their part-time workers. They're just like, hey, we got like a bunch of events canceled. We're not going to pay you. And then like people freaked out. And then it eventually, I think it got picked up by CBC or CTV or one of the local stations. And then all of a sudden they're really tuck tail and they're like, oh, I guess we should pay you something.
Well, people don't need money.
So yeah, and we're talking about like, this is they own the Jets, like an NHL franchise. That's not a cheap thing. You have money. You know, like you constantly raise season ticket price holders. Like people are selling their season tickets because we can't afford them. It can't go up 5% when inflation only goes up 3%, and then wages only go up 0.5%.
Right.
Nobody can afford to continue doing these things. So it really, viruses don't just expose like fear and that sort of esoteric and sort of existential fear of like life and death kind of thing. It shows like it has a way of just kind of stripping down, oh, big multinational corporation will make you work and allow you to refuse the work, but we won't let you sit at home and be safe. Multi-million dollar NHL franchise holding company, part-time workers, screw you. We don't want to pay you. Right. So it kind of just shows it really takes the paint off in a way that is, you know, it's almost like they're just hoping, oh, I hope nobody really notices just how greedy we're being about this.
Yeah. Okay, so Shashlim has a couple of points here. So flattening the curve is the best idea. That can have a real impact on lives. Now, what that means is the curve being the rate that people are getting infected. So the curve would go up and peak when the most people have got the virus, and then it'll come back down again. I'll make sure I'm doing this right.
Yeah,
we'll go up,
I think we're all familiar with the idea, that's been in the news.
Yeah, the idea is to stretch that out so it's over a longer period of time, so resources can go further. And I'm surprised I remembered that actually.
Well, and the other big thing about it is that the higher the concentration of people that have it, the greater chance it's going to mutate into something that could even be more like right now. For most of your population, COVID-19 is a real big irritation. It transmits quick. You'll get sick if you're a healthy, normal individual who doesn't smoke and doesn't live in a polluted area. You're probably going to get sick. You're most likely to recover. But the higher the amount of people that you have with it, the more likely it's going to mutate. And then it could become even something more deadly, right? Then it could just be more, then it could be like that, you know, could certainly start to become more like the plague, where it's like if you catch it, you're probably going to die. Yeah. So
no guarantees.
Leveling that curve is probably better. Yep. Is the best is the best way to do it.
And actually, the flatter the curve in Manitoba, the better too, because the resources are really slim pickings. Shaleem did ask us a question. What's your best guess? Will the Tokyo Olympics be cancelled? Runs from July 24th to August 9. I suspect it probably won't, but I'm not really sure. It really depends on the panic. They've already spent tons and tons of money on this, so they would really be fighting that to cancel it, I suspect. But
I'd say it's too early to tell. But if things continue to go the way they were, like Italy is like losing people left, right, and center. If we get another nation that's like that, now again, it becomes one of those things where it's like, okay, so COVID-19 in Winnipeg, not a problem, manageable. But we have a lot of Italian people who've immigrated from there, and if they give the all clear and they pick up COVID-19 over there, it could be mutated. It could be more like COVID-21 or something like that, right? That now is much more serious and much more virulent and much more severe. So it's really much more. It's really too early to tell.
Yeah,
if we get another nation states that are shutting down because of mass casualties, it could. That really, I think it's too early to tell.
Yeah.
My gut feeling, I think they're going to cancel them and just do them next year.
Right. And now there's another factor as well. I think it was the N191, whatever it was, the last one.
H1N1.
H1N1. Yeah, where it was. Yeah, that's right. The swine flu. We'll call it that because I can say that. What happened with that, and this is kind of normal, is that you'll get the initial outbreak, it'll get under control, and what happened with that one? It broke in the winter, and then it was nice a lull over the summer, and then it hit hard again in the following winter.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance that if everything looks good and it goes ahead, that could spread a mutated version or another, or a more resilient version, and it could be even worse if it'll be everywhere, right? The entire world will have it.
The other side of the coin, though, is the more it mutates and the more unstable the DNA chain is inside the virus, it's also likely that it could become less severe, right? It could just become much more infectious, but less severe,
right?
If it mutates. So there's that other way. I just want to balance it out because it's like I don't want people thinking that we're the prophets and saying it's over, we're all dead.
Just saying that's what happened before, and this is a similar virus. The chances are that's going to happen again. Hopefully by then, because the swine flu was more of a normal swine flu virus, they were able to develop a vaccine fairly quickly. They're still saying it's a year away, so we might not have that vaccine come next winter or next fall.
Yeah, it all depends. There was
so
hang on a sec here.
So
keyboard. There was an article of a Canadian research team in BC that was working on COVID-19, and they isolated something that is a real breakthrough for a vaccine. I'm just looking it up here.
Okay. Shalem says True North received about $15 million a year from taxpayers, so no doubt they caved.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a comment. He comments about the Winnipeg Folk Festival, July 9th to 12th, and the Jazz Festival, 11th to 19th of June. And that would be his summer ruined. But yeah, again, that would be one of those places where it could spread.
Yeah, we'd have to be very careful with that.
And here is an interesting question. Why do you think there are so few cases in Russia? Surely they have a worse healthcare system than most of Europe. Maybe Putin isn't reporting the truth. Well, I don't think that's a fair statement. Maybe Putin isn't reporting the truth. Don't care. Don't care. It's Putin, so he's going to say what he's going to say. They don't have a bad healthcare system. That's just it. They're a socially funded healthcare system as good as anywhere in the world, as I believe. I will be willing to be proven wrong on that, but there could be lots of reasons. People are not traveling there right now. Russia's the pariah of the world, right? Because they're being blamed for everything, wrongly for most cases, for most things. Maybe that's why. It could just be reporting, but they do have a decent healthcare system, absolutely.
Yeah, and it just might be that maybe their population is just a little bit more hardier towards that particular type of virus.
It could be.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's just worth mentioning that the life expectancy in Russia, certainly at the end of the 1990s, was the same as it was in Europe. It's gone down a little bit from what it was in Russia. I'm not sure if the rest of Europe has gone down as well, but that has to do with the fall of the Soviet Union, and life has got worse for everybody since. So they've become more of a capitalist nation. But anyhow, yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, so I'll send you the link to this here, Mark. It's basically a Canadian research team isolates the kind of the root virus behind COVID-19, and so that's going to help in diagnostic treatments and vaccines.
I'm sorry. Maybe vodka inhibits the virus.
Yeah, and maybe that's the reason they're living longer. Maybe they all died, but they're all pickled in vodka.
Yeah, that's possibly
That's
yes.
definitely
Yeah.
that's a possibility. So you may hear a ding here in a sec, Mark. I'm gonna send you I'm gonna send you the link to that story I was just talking about. You can post it in our comments or when we post up on the podcast.
I don't have Facebook open for that reason.
Okay, well, you'll get it when you get it then. So.
Okay, well, we had about 4 different topics we were going to talk about. This is us just scraping the surface of the coronavirus. This is us scratching the surface. We're just going to mention it in passing.
Scraping the top.
Exactly what we were going to do. That was the plan, and as usual, we kind of got into it. So next time we do this, I think we'll probably close it there. I think, unless you got anything else you want to touch on. But the other topics that we were looking at is a suggested breakfast program here in Manitoba, which has been shouted down by the Tories, of course. We want to talk about the Manitoba budget and the kind of nasty state that's in with the NDP blocking it passing. And I don't think it has. I did double check, and I don't think it's gone through yet. And and the House is closed for the next few weeks. Yep, and then we're going to talk about healthcare cuts as well. But I think that we'll save that for another show. And I don't know how often we're going to do these. We were talking briefly yesterday, maybe doing this weekly, doing it live rather than recording, and then posting as a regular podcast. But these ones, I think, we'll still release this as a regular podcast as well. It'll be available on YouTube, of course, and if you're patient enough, you can scroll through Facebook, but good luck finding anything on Facebook. So you can actually...
it's pretty bad.
Make sure I get the right info here. Oh, that was the wrong transition. Anyhow, that was for the other show. So you can find out links to everything relating our show here. So go to fixingtheworld.ca. We have links to the YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, subscribe. All the past shows are there, plus we've got some older videos that I did over the few years, a year or so previous as well. So go and look. There's lots of interesting stuff, and I particularly want to hear from you if you disagree with me, or if you disagree with us, because that's kind of the conversations I like to have. I don't like someone just saying yes. I like to see where we're going wrong, and if I am actually a bit open to being proven wrong. So post a link if I've got some facts wrong, and so on. Or if we have, say me.
Well, and it does. It does happen that Mark and I have caught each other on lots. We've taught each other lots. We've corrected each other, this, that, and the other. He's done it to me. I've done it to him. So it does happen between the two of us. We do disagree occasionally, and we do. But we often. We try and do it in the light of like, hey, maybe you should consider this, and not a, hey, you dummy, kind of thing, right? So,
yep.
So yeah, and that's kind of just ties into what I had sort of original. Pick your battles and be decent about it. No one's gonna listen to you if you're just raging. So
yeah, indeed. So we can. All the links on fixingtheworld.ca. I'll be adding some show notes. If you go there, if you just scroll down just a little bit, you'll see all the shows there, and I will be trying to keep that up to date with the show notes with links to some of the articles we were referring to. And I think that's probably it for now. I think. Any last words? Sounds a bit ominous. Any last words?
I hope not. I hope that's not my last words. No, I think we've got more than enough material to probably do at least a couple more shows, as is the case always when we're doing these things. We talk it through minutes before we go online, and then all of a sudden we're just like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good.
And it doesn't matter what show it is; it's always the same. It always takes its own life. So actually, Shalem has a couple of questions there. Should the provincial budget be put on hold in light of the economic intervention due to the virus? Possibly. I think that the argument is that we will need some money available for the emergency and everything. But good question. I guess we'll find out how that resolves anyway.
Yeah, and I think what we have to do, and this is something that I had said off air to Mark, at the end of the day, that budget that you're trying to table is just going to go out the door. Whatever you thought you were going to spend, you're not spending it there anymore. You're spending it here and now. Yeah. So that budget is really, even if you're trying to ratify it and get it passed as law, whatever you were going to spend, even if you had passed it, it's not going to, doesn't matter.
Yeah. We'll talk about the budgets, the current budget anyway. And the whole idea around the budgets, omnibus bills and all that other stuff as well, that get under my skin. And that'll be for another show. And yes, we do, when you send in questions via the website, we do see them. And of course, Shalim, you can, I think you have several ways you can get hold of me if it looks like I haven't seen them. So feel free to, we've got contact information on the website. You can contact us through YouTube and Facebook as well. So you've got lots of ways to get hold of us. So I think that's it for now. This was actually a lot of fun. It went a lot smoother than I thought.
Yeah, not too bad at all.
Okay. All right,
a little longer, but whatever. That's okay. We're trying to shoot for 30 minutes, but that was when we were just doing audio podcasts. So
good.
This was good to have something a little bigger and better and get to see our somewhat clean and shaven faces.
Okay, so I hope that was informative. So we actually learned some things from the comments as well, so that was great. So I think that we can consider the virus situation well and truly fixed. So we fixed that,
for now.
and so we'll find out we'll send out a bit more notification on the next show, a bit of advance warning when we're going to do the next one, but maybe weekly. I'm not sure what time yet, so we're still trying to figure this out. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks Shalim and Catherine particularly, who have been active in the comments, and we will see you soon, hopefully, another week or so. Thanks a lot. You'll see us both on the Invisible Man show on Saturday at 2 p.m. Central Time. And we've got Tommy.
And chances are I will still be.
Yes.
But see, this is a day's growth. Listen to this. Can you hear it?
No.
The crackle? Okay,
I'll put some sound effects in on post so you
bloody
don't
Velcro is what it is.
We'll add some sound effects later.
Awful.
Yeah, so our special guest on Saturday is Tommy Grassley, rocker from Ontario. Maybe hopefully I got that right. Anyhow, I'll have it all researched and I'll know exactly who I'm talking to on Saturday. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll catch you again.
At least
soon.
80% of who we're talking.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. We'll catch you again soon. Thanks a lot.
See you later.
He's gonna find you.